In what was a 116-107 win over the Oklahoma City Thunder, the Pacers stood their ground, providing reason for the fans in attendance at Gainbridge Fieldhouse to stand for a large portion of the fourth quarter. Like trade winds that abruptly change in strength and direction, Indiana found stability striking back in Game 3 by suddenly overwhelming that which they were overwhelmed by in Game 2. Joining me to discuss the sights and scenes from an electric evening at Gainbridge Fieldhouse, Samson Folk, recorded from Indianapolis.
Doing good. Enjoying my time in Indianapolis so far. Everybody just walking around. Caitlin is a superstar. I'll let everybody know. Whether it's the big fancy, everybody knows the media members or fans and listeners of the podcast, everyone's very excited to see Caitlin, which is like really heartwarming, as the number one champion of Caitlin is the best analyst in the world. And I got to attend a finals game as a credentialed media member. It was the best crowd I've ever been a part of. I've been in Oracle back in the day. Obviously, I've covered lots of Raptors games. This Pacers crowd was nuts. And what a game. It was about as good an experience as I could have possibly hoped for. It was dynamite.
Have you given any consideration to the fact that in the past, when you were the person riding the gamers, the Pacers were basically undefeated? And now when you're in the building, they also can't lose.
Well, I suspected that they were going to win this game. And my spidey sense of like, will they win, will they lose, as you well know, is actually quite strong. I don't know if that speaks to a next level of analysis that I just can't simply put into words. But basketball, do you want to get into the basketball right away? I have one story.
Are you saving the story for the end of the podcast, or do you want to tell it now?
I'm telling it now.
Okay.
So, as I said, many different people are saying like, oh my God, I love your work. When I was with Caitlin, many people, yes. And when I'm by myself, lots of people. I asked everybody their name because I wanted to say everybody's name, but it actually became too many people listen to the podcast. But when we were about to walk into the locker room, we're walking in, Doris Burke, Mike Breen, Richard Jefferson walking out. Doris Burke stopped the presses. She goes, oh my God. She says, I love you. She looks and she realizes it's Samson as well. She's like, I have Caitlin and Samson here. And she said, she was like, I watch every single podcast. And you'd be surprised how many people told us that. And she immediately started saying like, Caitlin, do you want to coach? Do you want to be on TV? Whatever. But just all your faves, Caitlin's one of theirs. It was cool to see you get your flowers.
Well, now everybody's going to wonder what my response was when she asked me that. I think people should know. I think my first words were, I like being in Indiana.
Yeah, I do too.
I'm glad. The first thing that I thought that stood out from this game, and full disclosure, my sister published your gamer last night because we were both at the arena. But I did come back and give it a glance over when I got back.
Did you notice that I accidentally, in my haste, wrote a beehive hive in the
I had someone let me know this, which I should have fixed when I got up this morning after somebody let me know this. But what I liked about this game so much is that many of the things that we talked about in Game 2, as I tried to intimate during my little monologue there, was that the Pacers found answers to most of them, particularly on the defensive end, especially against Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
Yes.
And that might have to do with a question that you asked when you went to post-game media.
No wonder, because the was it the Writers Union or Guild or whatever the hell it is, gives out those awards for like the best quote. Tyrese is really great. And like, it was kind of funny. Like, Rick was also really great. Like, I was going to ask about pickup points in a broader sense. I wasn't trying to get his game plan, but I was going to ask about pickup points. And he immediately was like, absolutely not. And then I think he was like, but if you have another question, and I just was like, basketball in Indiana. It's a terrible question, but I was like, whatever. But he gave a lot based off of that when he didn't have to. Everybody answers were great. And Tyrese's was definitely like for what I like to get. Him talking about being flat, the defense at the level of the screen, super duper, Miss Cooper.
Oh no, we're back to this again. Thought we would have eradicated that once you were in my homeland here in Indiana, but perhaps not. So the defensive changes that I noticed, and once again, you're probably going to pick at me because we're basically going to be talking over the top of highlights because it was things that I liked that I thought were worthwhile to point out. Starting in the fourth quarter, which Rick said after the game, which you would have known because you were there, that I guess Miles Turner was dealing with some degree of an illness and they don't know if he was going to be at practice today. But despite the fact that he was dealing with that, quite impactful at the defensive end at the end of this game. So they had run stack out to get Shai into pick and roll with Chet Holmgren, and you can see how much more the Pacers were pulled in a lot of cases throughout this game. So Tyrese all the way off the strong side corner there on Dort. Chet doesn't even begin to make that read, although perhaps he was skittish because of how often Tyrese and TJ had been really strong in this game at reading the tag and still being able to get out and intercept some of those passes. But he does not make that read, kicks it out to J-Dub, and Neesmith's able to cut that off. And then I do not know how many bigs I've seen accomplish this task, Samson, where they block a three-pointer on the perimeter and then somehow track the ball clear back to the rim and also impact that shot and get a block as well. Probably one of the best defensive plays I've ever seen in Miles Turner's entire career, quite frankly.
He was dynamite down the stretch. And this is something that he's done. You know, I know he shot 3 of 11. I know that he, like, offensively, this has not necessarily been his series at all. But his defense, I thought, throughout the course of this has been very strong. And I also loved, it's a highlight too, but when he caught and bumped Chet under the rim, and it was kind of that reminder, like, oh yeah, you are this massive guy, but you're quite slight, and that you can be moved. It was a good little pause and timeout for his offensive process and helped the Pacers down the stretch. But his defense, I think, has been just pretty tremendous especially lining across from Chet in this series so far. He's been instrumental in kind of solving that. And man, down the stretch, I was wondering, because when they made their run, Pascal got a good, nice break, and Miles obviously had underwhelmed, in some regards of the game. I was like, I wonder who they close with. And they went as strong as they could. They're like, no, we're going back to the 5. Even Aaron didn't play as much as he normally did because Ben Shepherd got some of those minutes. Mathurin got some of those minutes, and they closed with those guys. Mathurin came in for free throw shooting, but hell yeah, Miles was great.
Another standout moment from less than 2 minutes to go in the game. Pacers clinging to a 6-point lead. Pascal gets cross-matched onto Shai on the perimeter. Probably one of the best isolation possessions, especially right there, staying down on the initial contest, that I've seen from Siakam, with the exception of maybe the one against Sacramento late in the game where he took away, didn't bite on DeRozan's pump fake, contained Malik Monk in isolation, and then also I think had rotated onto Sabonis as well on one stop. But that was a regular season game, and this is the NBA Finals, Samson. So this was another one that was like, I don't have a lot of deep analysis for this, but I feel remiss if I don't point it out. Especially because I had people literally tagging me tomorrow and being like, if you and Samson don't talk about the Siakam isolation possession, then like you failed. So I don't want to fail the podcast.
Well, that was we talked about what I asked Tyrese about. That was what I talked to Pascal about, and it was not as specific because I know I've had many conversations with Pascal. He doesn't like to go that specific, so it was just kind of like, you stuck on the league MVP for 2 straight, like he tried you twice, then you beat him down the floor and scored on him like down the stretch of a game. Like, how much does that work and that ability to just like ask a little bit more of yourself, to run a little bit harder, to like stick in, how does that permeate your game? And obviously Pascal, his work ethic is pretty well renowned, and he was glad to talk about that. But that possession, I've obviously seen the best of Pascal's defense over the course of his career. That he's played at higher levels. I just went back and rewatched the film of the championship defense for the Raptors, but game 3, Pascal was sublime. Like, Nembhard is, without a doubt, he's the major motivator of what works and what doesn't out there. But Pascal, for like 80% of the playoff games in this run, has just been in that like not the Nemhard stratosphere, but just like in that upper level of defense. He's been so impressive in what he's been able to provide.
The other major takeaway I had is something that you brought up at the end of game one when we were discussing whether the Thunder should have gone small or not. Obviously, hindsight was 2020, but you had suggested, like, if anything, I probably would have rather seen them play Hartenstein rather than Chet, and perhaps rather than going small, because you liked his screening and the optionality that you get with him playing out a delay at the top of the key out of handoffs. And the Thunder have gone to that a lot in order to get Shai into action, just basic, pin downs into handoffs at the top of the key. And the thing that stood out to me is how often Andrew denied those actions, like where then Hartenstein literally had to turn the ball to the other side of the court on numerous occasions in this game, where like Caruso misses that layup. But if you can get the ball diverted from the MVP's hands entirely, that's definitely a defensive win for you. Especially this was the most standout defensive possession that I felt from the entire game as far as being representative of what the Pacers were trying to accomplish, where they get Hartenstein in space to immediately be able to move the ball to Shai. Andrew takes that away. He's continuing to deny Shai there. They have to give it to Dort. Now he's pushed further out to the logo. And yes, it's a higher screen, but Tyrese is ready for this. Like, he isn't completely flat to the ball. This isn't going to be a show because he is going to be slightly in drop, but he contains it with Shai snaking here to the point where this is a massive stop for them to get that travel when the Pacers are up, 3 with minutes to go in the fourth quarter. I thought that was the most impressive defensive possession of the game, among a lot of impressive defensive possessions from the game.
I was shocked because honestly, Shai and J-Dub both deserve like a world of credit for their ability to score in game 3. That was the Thunder had to go to that every time. They're like, we need screen and roll. We need to get the edge. We need a high step up screen. We need a runway, or we need a cross match to beat. And J-Dub in particular, beating the cross matches, I thought was like absolutely nuts in game 3. So the fact that the Pacers were, for what seemed like 6 minutes of game time, of clock time, were able to like step up and squeeze the screen and roll stuff to make it so that they can set the edge that nobody's getting around, but also that they can close the hole for the split. I mean, Shai got through once down the stretch, and he probably got through like 7 times prior to that. And the way they were able to clamp down, the level of defense was really, really high. And it's what you and I have kind of talked about, and it's probably why the Pacers are up 2-1 and shocking people, is that this Pacers defense is much better than what people thought. You and I have been talking about it for a while. They defend at exactly the level that they get asked to defend at. That's been true against the Bucks. It's, where they weren't as sharp. They were really sharp against a lot of what the Cavs did. They were really sharp against a lot of what the Knicks did, but probably not as sharp as against the Cavs. I mean, it's just like they just do what is asked of them. They do what is necessary. And that defense has taken, like, that stretch to close the game was absolutely imperative. And it was so impressive what they were able to accomplish on that end of the floor.
Some might say standing their ground while the crowd was standing up.
Something like that.
But one last thing about that is how, like we talked about, and I said, which it ended up being both in this particular game, that in some respects I was more concerned with how many people were going to guard Shai rather than who exactly was going to be guarding Shai. Both definitely mattered here because Andrew was playing up and closer to the ball, even at the risk of drawing fouls in this game. They clearly wanted him pressing up as close as he could. But also, like, when Shai is snaking there, watch Aaron too. Like, a lot of times he was seeing closer to 3 bodies in this game, even rather than just some of the passive necks. And that was a contrast too from what Tyrese was doing at the other end of the floor. Because a lot late in the fourth quarter, they were having Andrew give it to Miles very deep up the court near the logo, and then playing Tyrese into handoffs from there so that he could be getting downhill. And this ends up being a rescreen where then he draws 2 out of the rescreen. And this is going to go down in the jump pass Hall of Fame, Samson, because I don't know from what angle you were at because we weren't sitting in the same section. I genuinely did not think this pass was going to Aaron Nesmith. I was kind of shocked when it did. And it looked like Miles was shocked when it did.
Maybe I have the point guard eyes because I was like, this is.
You thought for sure it was a skip? Yeah.
Yeah, because the Thunder, we talked about it. Like, this was a pass Tyrese made probably 4 times throughout the game, not all jumping, but he was hitting the corner, and the Thunder, they have such a bias towards that roller. Neesmith hardly shooting at all in this game, and have that like catch high, keep high, bang from there. When
Yeah,
Pascal
basically
went,
no dip. I didn't think he was
yeah,
gonna get that even to the rim when he let it go.
but he did, and also he had the Ray Allen like back pedal off of Pascal getting the ball to him in the corner. It ended up being a 2-pointer because he didn't get his feet behind, but the 2 jumpers that Neesmith was able to hit, the difficulty level is extremely high. He missed his one easy look, but I keep watching Neesmith and just remember my introduction to Neesmith and watching a lot of him is the tail end of last season and the playoffs. And I'm like, maybe the shooting isn't as real as I thought. And now the shooting is so real. It's the realest damn thing in the world. He's just like, get me in there. People say magnet ball.
And I still think through the first 3 rounds that a lot of this was like a trickle down effect to Neesmith because of how much pick and roll Andrew was running and because of what matchups Neesmith was getting. But he's also had a ton of shot versatility throughout the playoffs as well. Just talking about Tyrese and that jump pass and the standout initial part of how it was kickstarted being the handoff. We talked about at the end of game 2, like, was garbage time meaningful at all? And I said, I don't think the intensity of the Thunder's defense was to the same level in the fourth quarter as the rest of the game. That being said, I liked that they ran like the full court blind pig action with Tyrese starting off the ball. And I liked that they ran the sideline out of bounds play where Tyrese tossed it to Miles and literally ran into the catch out of the stack screen from Ben Shepherd. There was a lot more split action, a lot more handoffs in this game. And this is just rerunning what that was at the end of game 2. There was a lot more handoffs and split action in this game, both with Miles and Siakam at various points. And this was right within the first minute. And what I liked here is in addition to, if I roll it back, in addition to getting the handoff and getting downhill, is that the Pacers took a page from some of our podcasts about the Cleveland Cavaliers. And in order to remove the exaggerated help from the Thunder, we have Neesmith cutting from the corner to the dunker and Andrew sliding into the corner, which was part of their spacing scheme in this game, which Andrew didn't even strike iron on that shot. However, it did help Tyrese get deeper downhill. And then, like I said, it was a lot of Andrew pushing it up the break to Miles as a trailer, then a real quick pitch back. And the Pacers like running through pitches in those types of situations, mainly because it's very hard for the screener defender in those types of handoffs when it's a trailer to be calling out the coverage. There's no time to do it. Like when it's a ball screen in semi-transition and the big has to come out of the paint to come screen for Tyrese, they have the whole long run of that screen to be yelling out, whether it's ice, whether, whatever direction they want the on-ball defender to go. This is too quick to react to. It's significantly better for Tyrese to be attacking out of those modes than what we were seeing in game 1 and 2, in my opinion. And then I apologize. The jump pass was so good, I threw it in there. People are going to see it again. But like I said, 13 handoff possessions that he played in this game, and that's tied for the second most of any game this season, including both the playoffs and the regular season.
Yeah, there's 3 main motivators that got probably 4 offensively. The TJ McConnell of it all, it was being in that arena for his 3 backcourt steals, insane. Like, absolutely.
Did you
insane.
enjoy the TJ petty pageantry and playing to the crowd now that you've seen it in person?
I really like it when I see it on TV. I really liked him with the ha 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 with, who is it, Bobby Portis maybe? Like TJ
yeah.
and
he does a lot of petty pageantry.
Yes. Yeah. And TJ also, as Tyrese says, he and Furphy are competing for the moniker of Great White Hope, which I thought was kind of funny.
Miles has commented about that too, that he takes it personally, according to Miles, when TJ plays against other white players, that he wants to be the best white player.
Hell yeah. If anybody followed my Twitter, there's some white comps are nice. Some white comps are not nice. Some you can abide. But anyway, TJ was unbelievable. The interior passing, I thought, was quite courageous. He was diligent in looking for it, in supplying his teammates with looks. I think Tyrese said it last night that, like, there's nobody better creeping that baseline than than TJ McConnell. And he really is. He's so fantastic at doing it. You know, that throw ahead dribble and skimp down there. He was great. But I thought Pascal and Ty, we'll get into, I'm sure you probably have a couple of things of Pascal's, but Pascal, Rick called it out. He's like, he scored the first 6 points of the game for us when it was tough to come by. And Pascal, like, you look at the bag work is insane, by the way. Like the spin off of Shai to get to the banker and the flatten out ISO against Lou Dort, where he did basically like the Penny Hardaway move and got into a step back and cashed it. I was just like, man, I've seen so much of this in Toronto, but he's a very special scorer. And then you have Ben Mathurin. Hell yeah, Ben Mathurin. Josh, who's not in the room right now, but Josh and I road trip down here together. And Josh texted me. He's like, who would have seen this Mathurin game coming? And I was like, Ben Mathurin saw this Mathurin game coming, man. He was so unbelievable. He had that one. Oh my God. That like Shai had that one huge step through gather lefty finish at the rim. And Mathurin, like one star turn deserves another. Mathurin had that like slither down, that high finish lefty. His shot making, the level that it was on, and some of this does relate to, you know, how you've talked about many times in the past, like you put Mathurin in the positions to succeed where it's his play, and he got those. And he made a killing. Just like he got the space to operate, and he was insanity. 27 points on 12 shots in 22 minutes. There you go. And as a cutter, too. Like, TJ gets middle, and there's two cuts there's 245 cuts. And, of course, Mathurin's the one who gets there first. It's just like.
So I said he and TJ play really well together. That's something that I've said for a while. When TJ plays like this, which in some respects, everything you just said kind of spoiled the entire rest of the podcast because those are kind of all the topics I had planned. But TJ, if we start there, because I don't have like necessarily a clip package overall for TJ, but his game management was significantly better than game 2. Especially when we were looking back, like if people go back and watch that last episode, I did harp on it a lot, the excesses of TJ ball, especially when the Thunder went double big and Siakam was being guarded by either Isaiah Joe or Shai Gilgeous, and he wasn't touching the ball. It was way too much, in my opinion, TJ, Thomas Bryant, high pick and roll, like what you would be doing during a regular season game rather than recognizing where the clear advantages were on the court. The Pacers have basically been wrecked in the non-Tyrese minutes throughout this series. I think they were minus 22 and 23 non-Tyrese minutes in games 1 and 2. They ended up being plus 12 and 8 non-Tyrese minutes in this game, mainly because of the three people that you just mentioned, TJ, Bennedict Mathurin, and Siakam. And TJ in particular, I think in relation to both of them in different ways, is that rather than him having the ball and holding on to it for as long as possible, as he somewhat tends to do while he's creating the maelstrom of a whirlpool under the paint, they were playing flash game with Siakam, and it was more inside out where his pull-up twos were coming off of Siakam touches rather than Siakam perhaps never getting a touch in some of those minutes. So the Siakam film.
Also, there was like the perfect example. I'm sure you have it in there, but I'll spoil it anyway. It's like Pascal draws 2 in the post. Mathurin cuts off of it, bucket. Like, it's just, sometimes it could be that easy.
I'm going to need you to quit tipping off every point that we're going to make, Samson. So game 2, like just as a refresher, this was a real possession where Siakam was being guarded by Shai in the corner. Andrew didn't go there, despite the fact that Tyrese was literally pointing like, hey, the ball should probably go over there. And they went into high pick and roll. And like, Andrew's capable of making this shot, but it points out that Siakam had 1 post touch for that entire basketball game, according to tracking data. That can't happen in a finals game, especially in this matchup and where the advantages are going to be. And this is another look at where they were off-ball switching Hartenstein onto Nesmith, and that means Siakam was being guarded by Shai. And it was a lot of him like floating around the perimeter while they were doing, you know, whether it was a Thomas Bryant's 3 with 16 seconds to go, like that one, or whatever else it was. So like, I don't really need to completely rehash that.
We all remember the conversation that was mic'd up in game 2.
Yep.
You know, keep sealing. I'm trying, bro. Just keep doing it. I'm going to get the ball to you. It did not happen in game 2. Perhaps Tyrese was talking about at the very start of Game 3.
And you could tell that this was a point of emphasis
Yep.
with Siakam, because like that possession that I just showed where Tyrese was in the weak side corner pointing at Andrew like, hey, over there. He's being guarded by Shai here, and they're not wasting any time. Like, that's where the ball is going to go. It was working to get him more, which that's a normal place for his touch area, and that's, fine. But they were clearly making an adjustment to do more in the paint, more at the elbows, and then also more at the nail. And when he did catch the ball at the elbow, like, once again, like, oh, you're being guarded by Shai as a cross match, that's where the ball needs to go. Watch the other people reshape around that so that they're putting Neesmith's going down to the dunker. They're creating a really wide gap with Tyrese one pass away. He doesn't need to pass out of it because they didn't smash down to help, but that spacing is better than some of the spacing that they were showing in Oklahoma City as well. And then this is what I'm talking about with flash game. A lot of times it was just flashing him up to the elbow or right at the nail so that Andrew and Tyrese, or sometimes Ben and TJ, or whatever combination of guards, were then going into split action. It wasn't always automatically leading to the first shot, but they were playing more inside out than what you would normally see the Pacers do, which I think is important because of everything that we've said with Pascal's going to, have mismatches and advantages against a lot of matchups against the Thunder. They did draw a foul there with Dort kind of hanging on to Siakam. And then some of it was like, it's still showing the full breadth of what he's capable of doing. Cause we also talked about Tyrese in the last game really couldn't find space to drive, and Siakam was having to drive to find any space because he wasn't getting touches in other areas, but they were also willing to go back to that some as well, depending upon who his defender was.
Those two buckets, the one against Shai literally is like sprinting the wrong direction as Pascal spins off of him. That one on Dort almost couldn't get his feet under himself. Like the explosivity that Pascal has to Draymond talked about this, about how Pascal has like almost a preternatural ability to like feel how a player is leaning on him and how to like move off of that. And that how balanced he is coming off of that stuff is clearly just it is the result of so many hours and so many reps of work, because like at full speed covering the range of space is like 20 feet of space. Stepping back into that move is incredibly difficult over Dort. His bag is incredibly impressive to me.
Then it's more flash game between Bennedict and TJ. Bennedict getting that handoff, and then what I liked here is that he gets back off the ball, and then Ben gets it back. And then TJ, again, rather than going full TJ ball, continuing to look for Pascal in places where they played inside out, and then when he got it back, playing it back to Pascal again. That's just a steal from TJ. And then this is going to show, because I was going to say by the numbers, because it's going to match the eye test, Pascal had 20 paint touches in this game. He had 10 total paint touches in game 2. He also had 8 touches at the nail in this game, which is more than, or the same number, as the last 4 playoff games he's played combined. So it was clearly a strategy to be getting him touches at the free throw line. And you can understand why. This is in part why, the Sixers over time moved Embiid from the low block to the nail, because you're going to be able to see, because of how the Thunder swarm to such a degree, you're going to be able to see where their unpredictable help coverages are coming better if he's at the top of the key rather than low in some of their sets. And then also, I still like them running C for Siakam, and I'm sure they're still going to continue running it, but throwing the ball to him into the helper coming from the corner rather than throwing it to him at his outside hand, those types of entries are easier when he's flashing up to the elbow. It wasn't nearly as congested for them in this game as it was in game 2 when he wasn't getting some of those looks. So, like, over and over again, you could see that they wanted to get him the touches there so that they could play through it in the opposite direction as what they normally would.
Yep. And it's important, even if it doesn't result in a shot for him. It's really important. Yeah, that's
the pass. Yep.
Neesmith, oh my days, dude. It's just really important to get the ball to Pascal, because the Thunder do respond to it, and it can break the shell a little bit, and it creates responses, maybe more so than a couple of the other plays that the Pacers have been running, or the process the Pacers have had. Sometimes it can seem like they're playing tag and they're trying to evade the Thunder because that ball pressure is so immaculate. And, Tyrese is good at that game. He's an efficient player of tag, but it is nice to be able to just like toss it in and create a bit of like pressure on the Thunder defense. It's a nice counter punch.
And then I wanted to throw this one in too because it's just total, 2-man action between Tyrese and Pascal, inverted to start, and then Pascal gets the switch. They switch back. He backs it back out. Very good with a negative dribble and then charging ahead at that cross match. And when the double does come, then you do have Tyrese one pass away. And that was something that we talked about, I think, at the end of game one, was still continuing to put them in action and just being better at spacing so that Siakam would be able to draw the help in that way. And then you could play through Tyrese on the perimeter too.
It's good stuff.
Lastly, Bennedict Mathurin, you talked about him a little bit. Not exactly who I would have guessed would have a breakout performance in this game, but it was somewhat similar to the breakout performance he had off the bench in
Everyone's
game.
favorite Canadians in the building last night,
Maybe that was the difference. Who knows? Who can say, really? This was what popped to me right off the bat when those units came in, because I guess we should have pointed out, I don't have clips on him, but Ben Shepherd was also quite good in this game too, because when I was talking about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and saying, like, to me, I was going to be more interested throughout this series how many people were guarding Shai rather than who, because I was pretty confident it was going to be predominantly Andrew. They gave Ben Shepherd quite a few possessions against Shai last night, and he held up because he's able to play closer as well, and that was clearly a strategy shift on the part of the Pacers to be doing that. But, and this is not me trying to throw shade at Bennedict Mathurin because he was excellent last night, but they also took all of the Bennedict Mathurin possessions away from Shai defensively, which was part of why they were successful there too. But this just goes to the interplay between all of TJ and Pascal and Ben again, where throwing the hit-ahead pass. I pointed this out when I talked to Kevin O'Connor the other day, that the Pacers still had a very high volume of hit-ahead passes in game 2, 24, but only 4 of those actually led to a shot, because at times they were allowing the Thunder to catch up to them. And here, there's going to be a dig, an aggressive one, very intuitive cut from Ben. If his defender is going to go down there to that deep, to use his strength and be able to get to the basket. So that, and then this was, you and I talked about this during the Knicks series. They ran this slob play deliberately. They brought Ben into the game to run this twice against the Knicks. It contributed to why he had a breakout performance, and he made different reads out of it every time. So they called this for him when he came in the second half. He'd already been playing pretty strong at that point to easily get to the pull-up too. And so they ran C here, and then it ended up being an Obi cut. TJ's literally pointing like Ben is where the ball needs to go because that's where we have the advantage at this point in time. And then I can't count many times where I've seen Ben throw the ball into space like that. That's usually not a part of his handle, and then spinning back in the opposite direction to get the and one. And then this I really like too. If people want to check it out on Patreon, I wrote a story all about this particular action for Ben and why they go to it so often. They'll yell out Omaha when Ben's on the floor, and it's usually a slot-to-slot pitch. But what you're going to notice here is when TJ brings it up the court, it doesn't become a full-on slot-to-slot pitch where normally Ben would be attacking downhill with his left. They knew that he was going to have Shai there, so Obi's baking in a ball screen to make Shai have to guard. That was also part of the impetus, which, I mean, it looked late in the game like they did have an effective, similar with, sometimes Donovan Mitchell and Jalen Brunson as well, that Shai was somewhat worn down by the end of the game. So baking that into their normal Omaha action with the extra screen as well.
His shot making, I was writing it, and we don't have to give as much time to Ben because I actually gave Ben a lot of flowers in the piece. Because watching that first half, it was like Ben is a huge motivator of what helped keep them in it here.
Oh yeah,
and it was obviously a pretty big, like, the rotations completely flipped. The rotations were so much different than what we've seen in the past, and a lot of that was built around Ben and Pascal to a lesser degree. He was playing with a little bit different situation, more stuff with Toppin as well. But anyway, Mathurin, I was writing like, the Pacers, they're in this thing, and here the Thunder are shooting the ball way better. Just like they were shooting like 55% from 3 to 27% for the Pacers. I was like, they need a little bit of shot making. Ben Mathurin comes out in the fourth quarter and is like, don't worry, I've given so much, but I got even more to give, man. He was sublime. And just like, he can obviously force the issue sometimes, and sometimes that can be like tough. It was note perfect in this game. I couldn't imagine a better Mathurin game than what we got. Like even I know like J-Dub got him a couple times when he was on defense too, but he had a few possessions where he hung in as well. Like he was part of the ball pressure. It was just he a finals game. Like he'll have that forever. And Indy fans will have this forever. Like the Ben Mathurin game is a thing now forever. And that's cool.
I was kind of hoping the game was going to be close enough so that we could be like, if Ben Shepherd hadn't made that pull up too and that layup in the lane, where would the Pacers have been?
Well, that's
Can't say I saw those 2 possessions coming.
The pull up was crazy. The layup, I was like, yeah, he makes those. But the midi pull, I was like, whoa, Ben.
Yeah, that was out of their 77 skip where Tyrese fired it over there. I was like, oh, he attacks closeouts now. That's fun. These were the topics I had prepared. And this is a little bit shorter than usual, in part because I was a little bit skittish about the quality of what the internet was going to be with us both on location. But we do have an extra surprise for the end of this podcast, so please hold momentarily. Okay, we're back with the surprise. So on the way down yesterday, I stopped at Nicey Treat, and if you don't live in Indy, it was very hot in Indy yesterday. It was 85. So I packed a cooler. And I stopped at Nicey Treat and Fisher's, and I bought these for both of us so that Samson would finally get to go there. So his flavor, because he will not have just a plain popsicle, just melting, is not so hot chocolate. And mine is passion fruit orange guava. Oh, tell me.
Okay, so it's quite excellent, although it is very melted so far. The constitution of the hotel mini fridge is not popsicle ready. However, as a good fudgesicle. That's what this is. This is a fudgesicle from the popsicle family.
It's not. It's a separate branch of the sickle.
Well, okay, well then what? Okay, I'll let you explain the family then.
It's a popsicle if it is vegan and doesn't involve dairy. If it involves dairy and you want to call it a fudgesicle, then that's a separate branch. I keep trying to teach this to you. What do you think about the environment here at Nicey Treat?
Yeah, wait. The environment.
Well, we didn't go to Nicey Treat.
Oh, yeah. This is great. Yes.
Are you willing to try this?
Sure. Okay.
How do you feel about passion fruit, orange, and guava?
It feels good. Okay. Oh.
It's full popsicle.
That's good. That's good.
Is it
melting.
better than the fudgesicle?
No, the fudgesicle is the best, dude. There's nothing better than a fudgesicle. I don't believe it. Fudgesicles are so good. I'm spilling so much chocolate on myself. That's why I was running into repeatedly. Oh.
I look forward to all the people that this is their first time watching one of our videos.
Oh my dude.
They're wondering
popsicle eating.
Why the heck we're sitting here eating these. I should probably provide some context for that. So, I'm a popsicle enthusiast. I talk about them a lot. I go to various popsicle shops around Indiana and film little fun videos at them sometimes. My sister and I make them, and I also have some specific brands of them that I like. So once a month when I do the patron-only mailbag, I share a patron popsicle, and I've been trying to convince Samson of the wonders of Nicey Treat.
It's good. It's
for quite some time.
It's so melty though. Oh my days. I'm
if you need to be done with it, you can be
I'm swimming in chocolate. Wait.
It's literally dripping all over my hair.
I have chocolate on my leg.
My legs are sticky. Like, you would think that we were eating this in 85-degree heat. Like, we're literally sitting under a fan that's blowing my hair everywhere.
I give this a 10 out of 10.
How does it compare to a creamsicle?
This isn't as good as a creamsicle. Which is, a creamsicle is like the highest tier of popsicle. It is the greatest popsicle.
Okay.
That's what it is.
Okay. So now I want to know what's been your favorite thing about Indiana since your arrival.
It's the people, like definitely the people. Everyone's been so nice, and like also, is it cool that my like obviously I've talked to Tyrese before, but my reputation precedes me in the press conference that he's delighted to see like, oh yeah, it's nice to see you asking a question. Is it nice that like I didn't do it with Pascal because I was like I didn't want to be like Pascal, it's me. So I just started asking the question, and he was like he cut me off to say like good to see you, and I was like yeah man, and he was positively shocked. He was like, you came from Toronto, and I was like yeah man. I was like, he's just confused why I was there. But also, everybody has been so kind, and the aura or the feeling around the city is pretty great. Although I still have to see more of the city. Like I've just been walking this like tiny little block. Like Josh and I looking for food last night, of which you warned us we would find none. I was just like, man, we can't find anything here. And in Toronto, it'd be like, that's a unique thing about like this downtown area. There's no chains. You know what I mean? Like there's no like fast food restaurants or anything like that that would be open until like 3 or 24 hours. Oh,
I was so hungry last night that at halftime of that game, I literally ran to the Chick-fil-A on the floor behind me. I had no food because when you guys went to go eat, I was like, I don't have time. I have to go change clothes. And literally by the time I was changing, we met in the lobby to go get my tier 1 access band. I had no food. So Chick-fil-A nuggets is what I had at halftime.
Chick-fil-A is good.
Right. So you didn't end up finding any food?
No, we we had to go drive somewhere for that. But we had the car, so no, we didn't go to Sonic. Maybe Josh is a big proponent of Sonic and In-N-Out, so maybe we will go to Sonic before I leave the States. But yeah, the people, everyone's been so nice, and like I've been treated really well here, and all the like beat writers, national writers, all the people are like been very complimentary of our work. And everyone seems genuinely excited to see us and talk to us about basketball. So, yeah, I mean, it's been good. I think it's been great. And the game was incredible. The crowd, it's cool to be in those types of crowd sequences. Like the coolest crowd situation I'd ever been in prior to that was the Vince Carter jersey retirement in Toronto. It was really special. Like Vince is such an electric person, and obviously his play is so electric. And in Toronto, obviously there's this whole history, but this and the crowd in Indianapolis was like, holy smokes. It impressed me to no end. Just that buzz that was in the building.
That's the loudest it's ever been that's the loudest it's ever been when I've been at Cambridge personally. And I do also want to point out that when there are 2 Caitlins in the crowd at Cambridge Fieldhouse, the Pacers are apparently unstoppable. This is what happens. I was hopeful that you were going to say my favorite thing about Indiana was Caitlin.
Oh, I mean, you've been great, of course.
Good. Okay, well, that was the special.
You're one of the people.
I'm one of the people.
Yeah, this is the people. You're one of the people.
Okay, well, I guess I'll take that. I had to encourage it out of you, but I'll accept it. But yeah, that was a special surprise. I did bring those for Samson, even though I wasn't one of his favorite things in the state. So hopefully people endured that and liked hearing Samson's outside perspective on the city. Or if you haven't been to Indy yourself, then you got to learn a little bit more about it, in addition to the Game 3 video, which hopefully when you're watching this comes out a little bit earlier than usual, because we did get up early in order to record this. So say your goodbye phrase.
Okay. Thanks everybody for tuning in. If you like this, keep in mind that yes, we do enjoy that you watch it on YouTube, but if you'd like to support us further and this type of in-depth work, you can subscribe over at the Patreon Basketball She Wrote. That supports Caitlin and myself by proxy, and we appreciate it very much. Thank you so much for tuning in with us. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. It helps out the channel, helps see more people watch us eat popsicles. And thank you, Indianapolis, for being so accommodating. And thank you, Caitlin, for inviting me on this trip and allowing me to do all this stuff. I can't overstate how cool it's been to come and do this, and it's all because of Caitlin. So thank you very much.
Just reading this off a screen.
No, no. Okay, thank you everybody for tuning in. Whether you got into this in the morning or at night, have a blessed day from myself and Caitlin, and